good morning slash afternoon slash evening if you're watching this later on in the replay. Hello, welcome. I wanted to talk to you today about some tapping and journaling that I've done just this morning, in fact. So as you know, I'm an avid fan. Tuck the old bra strap away. What a floozy. Showing my bra strap. So this morning I did some journaling on money mindset stuff and some discomfort that I've been feeling. Hadn't really noticed that I'd been feeling it either, which was really interesting because I come from a place of having been in intense pain around money earlier this year, as any of you who've been following my journey and talking about this stuff will know. If not, there's plenty of videos and things in here that you can look back on if you want to know more. But for now, let me just tell you that I've come a long way on my financial abundance and money mindset work that I've been doing for myself. So I think that because I got so used to being in a place of such pain, that being in a space of feeling much more comfortable financially and with money in general, just the way that I felt and thought about it, and how I perceive it as an energy now, rather than knowing it was an energy before, but not actually feeling and believing that in my body. So that's changed quite a lot for me, and it's one of the things I am going to be teaching the people on my Money Mindset Mastery, is how to get to that place. But I also want to take people to the next level. I want to take people to a place where even when you're making more, but you've still got a little niggle. And that was what was happening for me, is that I was looking at my bank balance and going, well, this is great. This is a nice, safe amount of money. I feel good. And then I realised that when I was checking my bank account, because I do it every day, because, you know, what you focus on, oh, hello hair, what you focus on grows. So I check it every day with positive intention. And I notice, you know, any feelings that come up before I log into my account and all that stuff, and just be very mindful and aware of what's going on for me. And I noticed yesterday that when I looked into my account, there was more than I'd expected in there, which was great, obviously. But I had this feeling that the money was somehow stagnant. And I obviously picked up on that this time, and I thought, what's going on here? So I put it aside for my journaling this morning, and when I got up, I grabbed my coffee and I went outside on the balcony, and it was really sunny and lovely, and no one else, my boyfriend and the dog, were not up yet. So I kind of snuck outside with my coffee, and I decided to dig deep into this particular issue. So it all started with a feeling of it being stagnant. And when I looked at it, I'm telling you this in detail because anyone who may be thinking about doing the Money Mindset Mastery with me, I want you to understand the level of detail and the level of depth that we're actually going to be going into. Morning, Vicky. So this is basically what I want to tell you. We are going to start with the tiniest little thing. So for me this morning, it was when I thought about that number on my bank balance, I felt this feeling of like stagnation. And it was almost as though, because there was no big amount going out, I had almost convinced myself that I wasn't that I wasn't actually allowing space for more to come in. Now, on some level, that's true. We need to feel safe with spending money so that we can allow ourselves to be open to receiving more. So you almost like create the void for more to come in, right? And as I said in a post yesterday, I am not about people spending more than they have, because, as I put in the post yesterday, I'm not an asshole. However, when we have enough or more than enough and we feel like we can't spend, that's a very different thing. So that's what I'm talking about here. I no longer have that feeling, and so I haven't been kind of prolifically spending on loads and loads of things like to get rid of the money, like I used to almost like repel it, like, get out of here, it's not safe for me to have you. This is a very different feeling, one that I've not felt before. It was a feeling of stagnation. When I thought about the number, I could almost picture the number and like a brown box around it. Now, if anyone has not done any tapping or energy work, this might sound really peculiar, but go with me here. This is how it works, and this is what I'm going to teach you to do in the mastery program. So it might sound weird now, but it does. There is a reason why this happens. So for me, it felt like this feeling of stagnation. Morning, Alice. And like this brown box was around the number on my bank balance. So I decided to start tapping. So even though I have this brown box around the number, what's this all about? It feels stagnant. I accept myself anyway. Started doing a little bit of tapping on it. And then I got this sense of a memory. So I'm not a visual person really, kind of that's my secondary. So I'm more of a kinesthetic. So I tend to get like a sense of a memory rather than necessarily like seeing it very clearly. So I started to tune in to the memory. And I couldn't figure out what this memory was. It was very unclear. Normally they come pretty quick for me these days. But I was really, I couldn't quite tune into it. I couldn't quite get a clear sense. So I just kept going, just kept tuning in. This brown rectangle. I'm thinking, what the fuck is this? Is this about chocolate? I mean, quite possibly. I am clearly addicted to chocolate. Maybe this is about food rather than money. So as I got closer and closer to this memory and it became clearer and clearer, I realised that it was a memory from when I was a tiny little kid at primary school, and the brown square actually morphed into the hall floor in our school. We had like the flooring, which is like wooden, just like old wooden flooring, so it all looked like brown rectangles, which is where the brown rectangle had come from. Weird, so weird, this stuff, but I love it. So after I'd realised that where I was in the memory, which was in my school hall, it became very clear that this little kid, little me, my echo as we call them in matrix reimprinting, my echo was sitting on the floor and she was wearing a black and gold dress with a little red flower on, and the memory came back to me. So when I was in primary school, we had like a dress down day for comic relief. So I don't think you guys in the States have comic relief. I'm not sure. I think it's a British thing. But every few years or every other year or something, a whole load of comedians get together and they do loads of amazing charity work to raise money. And so what happened was, on this particular comic relief, we'd had like a dress down day. So I went to school dressed down in a freaking like black and gold taffeta party dress. Like, nice one, mum, thanks for that. How to make your child feel like she fits in. Dress her like a fucking princess, a gothic princess at that, black and gold. So she felt really uncomfortable. And I said to her, okay, so, you know, and I could feel like I remembered the feeling of like having itchy arms, like where the little poofy sleeves were sitting, and like itchy legs and tummy where the lining was just like scratchy. And so I did some tapping with her about the discomfort, and the question came to my mind, how might it be a good thing that you have this uncomfortable feeling? And straight away it came into my head. She told me that she needed to feel uncomfortable physically because it distracted her. And so obviously, why do you need to be distracted? And she told me that the reason she needed to be distracted was because then she had something to think about, which meant that she didn't have to try and engage with the other kids. So it was all about keeping herself separate and protecting herself. And the belief that came up, which I've actually written down, was I have to stay on edge to keep me safe. So that is something that a lot of my clients experience, and I've definitely known myself to do in the past as well. But goosebumps. But I never realised that this memory was so poignant. It is one that's always been there, but it never felt like a big thing, which they rarely do. But it felt like a really big thing for me. So when I went in and I did a little bit more work with her, we kind of tapped around, you know, feeling safe and all that good stuff. And then she just collapsed and she was like this little dead weight in my arms because she was so exhausted. And what happens, if any of you have ever worked with me or with any other energy work, you may know that when you relieve anxiety or you release a past trauma, you effectively cut down the amount of cortisol that's in the bloodstream. And cortisol is kind of like caffeine. So if you're a stress addict, you probably don't know, or you might know, but you don't know what to do about it. But what can happen is, for example, if you stop drinking coffee and you're a coffee addict, then your energy levels are going to drop. When you do this magical tapping stuff, your cortisol levels drop, which means that you don't have that crazy stimulant in your body, which is why very often people sleep really well the night after a tapping session. And sometimes they can even feel quite drained for a few days afterwards. So this is exactly what was happening to my little echo. We'd done some tapping, released the stress that she was feeling, anxiety, and she just went flump. After she'd flumped, I did some more tapping to let her, just gave her a cuddle, just let her rest and let her get her bearings back and build her energy back up. And once she'd done that, I could see that she was kind of looking at, like, she was standing facing me, and I was giving her a little cuddle, holding hands. And she was facing me, but then she kept kind of looking over her shoulder at the kids. So I could tell she was like tentatively interested to go and play with them. And you're probably thinking at this point, what the fuck has this got to do with money mindset? But we are going to get there, I promise. I'm just showing you how weird and wonderful these journeys can be. You don't always know why you've been taken back to a certain memory, or why something's come up as a brown rectangle or whatever. It's only when you do the deeper work that you really figure that out. So this is what happened to me this morning. So I've written some notes here. So she said to me, she felt like she wanted to engage, but just not with these kids. And what happened was, she said to me, I could see that she was looking with interest, that she always had to wait. And I'm very much like that now. I get, like, I want to be involved and I want to jump in, but I'll often find myself just in a group situation, particularly, just taking a little seat back and just watching and kind of gauging the energy and gauging people, not in a judgmental way, in a, like, am I safe here? And it's such a subconscious program for me, and I know that I do it. Hi Georgia, morning. So anyway, this little me, I'm just talking about a tapping session I did for myself this morning, so people can see how weird and wonderful this stuff is. Yeah, so I noticed that she was tentatively wanting to play, but not necessarily with these kids, and there was like a conflict in her. So I asked her about it and what was the disconnect. And she said to me, I've written this down because I didn't want to misinterpret this, because I found it quite interesting. She was tentatively wanting to go and play, but wanted to observe first as she felt different. I've always felt like I've had an old wisdom inside me, and knowing I may read this out on a live stream feels very vulnerable, but it is the truth. It has always been it has been part of what has led me to keeping myself feeling separate. So this acknowledgement, you may notice here, morning, that it's important for us to take ownership of the fact that we have held on to this. Not consciously, obviously, but the reason that I've written it like that is that it has been part of what has led me to keeping myself feeling separate, is because only by truly acknowledging that somehow we've played a role in keeping ourselves stuck here can we truly then release it, because we understand then that we have full control over everything, our thoughts, our emotions, all that good stuff. So I've put, there is of course a fun side to me, but I can take a while to warm up to strangers or a crowd, unless I'm teaching or speaking, because this is when I feel most in flow. So I went back to the feeling of separateness and did a bit more tapping. I've just put here, tappity tap, insert tapping session. And the reframe and learning that came from this was that these people, they were never my people. When we're kids, hi Sarah, when we are kids, we are forced into this very unnatural situation where we have to spend like, what, 6-7 hours a day, something with, you know, in my case, when I was a little kid, it was like around, say, 20 other children at the most. So a relatively small group of children who come from all different backgrounds, squidged together in a classroom, spending 6 whatever hours a day together for 6 years. And somehow we're meant to form friendships and soul connections, and sometimes that happens for people. I know some people who've been friends, you know, since primary school and since nursery and since pretty much sperm and egg. But for me, that never really happened. And in fact, I don't know, I have some connections with people from primary school, but I don't really, I look back, I don't think I have anyone. Probably going to really deeply offend somebody now. But at the top of my head, I can't think of someone from primary school who, like, I see on a regular basis, like, as a mate. I tend to have made my connections later in life, when I've got more comfortable in my skin and I've, you know, branched out and met more people in more walks of life. So that was the main learning for me from that particular thing, was that she felt like she didn't fit in and that she was different. And I've put here, because she was. Like, I was different from those kids, and that's okay. And it doesn't make me right or wrong, and it doesn't make them right or wrong. It just is, and that's okay. And I understand that now as an adult, but obviously as a kid, that part of me was still holding on to that kind of, I'm different, ooh, goosebumps. So what happened any of you who are experienced with Matrix or have ever had a session with me or someone else, or maybe you do it yourself, you will know that generally when you've had that reframe, it's like something just cracks open and suddenly, like, I could feel the difference in my body. I could actually feel the difference. And but I knew that it wasn't over and that we weren't finished yet. So I asked her, what would she, who does she want to play with? What does she need? And I could see this group of kids in the back of the hall that weren't there before. And I realised that they were about a group of 3 or 4 women that I've met later on in life, with whom I've been on retreats and done a shamanic journeying and like all sorts of amazing good woo-woo stuff. And I've also had a lot of really good fun with them. They're very into the divine feminine, and I think there's a couple of them in this group, so hopefully they'll see it and get a little shout out, hey girls. And it was such a different feeling. They were kids, they were them in their kid form. And it wasn't like they were beckoning me over or anything, but there was just like a light around them. And so little me, and me from today, just walked over and, oh, so goosebumpy right now. And we just entered that group. And they just welcomed us, and it felt warm and safe. And as soon as my little me sat down in that circle of girls, she felt so safe. And that's a feeling, oh, Jesus Lordy. That's a feeling that I never really had around other little kids. Like I never really like connected with them. I was always kind of on the outside. I was certainly never one of the sporty cool kids. Changed slightly into my daughter. Oh, Vicky. Oh, I love her. I love her already. Let her know that it's okay, and she'll find her people, and to just rock her crazy little socks and be as weird and wonderful and just fucking beautiful and awesome as possible. And I know that you'll support her in that, because you are awesome, and you will understand that she's just a light being. She's just different from those kids, and she doesn't need to fit in with those little fuckwits. So I'm sure they're lovely children. Don't be judgmental, Georgina. I just had such a shit time at primary school. Sometimes I still get caught up in that, like, not wanting kids now. Like, maybe part of that is because of the experiences I had as a little kid, right? Who knows? I'm sure my journal will tell me one day. Ah, good, Vicky. Yay. Happy to have given you a laugh in the morning. La, da, da. Plenty more where that came from when you get your ass on my training. Yes, that's right. I'm getting you on my bloody training, woman. So anyway, back to this little journey. We're nearly finished, I promise. Today's story time. And so when I sat down in this group, I felt so safe. I felt so connected. And the great thing was, is because I felt safe, I could be really, really silly. I could play. I could just be a complete tit. And I love being able to do that, because I actually do have a very playful, silly side to me. I'm not all like, deep and meaningful. I do actually enjoy myself as well, people. And so it was really lovely to see little me and to feel that feeling of just feeling so, so safe around these children. It was beautiful. So after that, I kind of got a bit carried away in that feeling and all the emotion of it, and I just felt great. And then I came out of it, and I realised, oh, I haven't actually asked what the frig this has got to do with my money situation, my money mindset, like right now. I totally forgot to actually connect the dots. So I went back in and I asked, what has this got to do with my money mindset? And the discomfort that I felt around having more money. That's what I'm working on if you're just joining me now. So I'm actually working on the fact that I have more than enough money, which is very, very new. And so my body was very uncomfortable with that. We think we know what we want, and then we get it, and then our body goes, oh no, that was just the next step so that you can figure out this whole extra layer of shit that you've got to deal with. Oh, thank you. So I put, okay, so now I want some clarity on what this has to do with my finances and the discomfort that I was feeling. And as soon as I wrote that down, it came in. Oh, okay. I'd been feeling a disconnect between me and other people and needing to remain at this level so I don't lose anyone. However, the girls and we then sat, when I realised this, the girls that I was with in the picture, they all put their palms up and they just sent this huge ball of green light up into the air. And they just said, oh, so many goosebumps. and I sat in a circle, and they sent a ball of healing green love energy to my finances and said to let love explode into my bank balance, is what it said. And it said, infuse my money with love. So that's what it had to do with it. This feeling that as I continue to move up with my money mindset and clear stuff, and therefore attract, receive and retain more money, it's about getting comfortable with who I am in that situation. So having more financial abundance does not change who you are on a core level. You are still the same person. I am still the same person, but you are finding a new way to be in relationship with your finances. So it's like when I used to work with weight loss, you know, people would get to a certain weight and then they'd start putting the weight back on because something had changed and they didn't know how to feel with their new body. And very much the same with finances. When you start to have more, and you've been so used to being at a certain level and being in scarcity and pain around money, when you start to get more, you can almost feel something that's so unusual that it feels uncomfortable. And for me, it was difficult, has been difficult to fully feel comfortable and relax into allowing myself to just have surplus. Like that's never happened to me before. If it does, it certainly hasn't happened for this prolonged amount of time. And so that's one of the things I'm really going to be working with my lovely people in the Money Mindset Mastery, because it's not just about getting more. It's about what happens when you get more. What happens if you've already got more now and you're still feeling like you've got some money mindset shit going on. Well, then what? You're no longer in pain. So how do you grow from here? How do you heal the parts of yourself that still need healing if you don't have that pain to like propel you forward into taking action? So that's what I'm going to be working with. I hope that you've got something out of this. I really enjoyed sharing it with you. I love to share what I've learned when I do the self-work, because I think it can seem like this big scary thing, and there's going to be lots of bubbly snot crying and all, there's going to be all this childhood trauma, and you know, and sometimes there is, but sometimes there isn't. Sometimes it's actually just about understanding a situation which isn't a tangible physical thing. It's just a feeling, it's an energy, it's a perception. So I want you guys to understand how freaking powerful this tapping stuff is, but also how powerful our mind is when it comes to attracting and receiving what we want in our lives, whether it's money, love, you know, health, whatever it is. We have access to unlimited abundance right now in this moment. And it's really just about allowing ourselves to receive it. And we can only really truly do that when we believe that we are worthy of deserving it, and when we know that we are safe to have more, that we are safe having more, that it's safe for us to have surplus, and that it's not going to mean we're suddenly just out on our own with no one around us because, oh my God, we've changed. It's actually just, well, now maybe you can buy them lunch every now and then because you can afford it. You know, like, you don't have to change. You do have to change internally, but you don't have to change the essence of who you are. You're still you. You're still going to be awesome and lovely and delicious. Okay, I hope this has helped you. I'd love to know what you got out of it, and please feel free to comment below if you've got any questions, or if it's made you kind of go, oh, I do that. Let me know. I want to know. I want to have a discussion with you guys about this. I'm not just here for the Georgina Knowles show. I want you to talk to me. So come on in, invite your friends, tell them that they are welcome to come and play in my happy tappy world. And let's clear our money shit together in it. If you're interested in the Money Mindset Mastery Program, send me a message today. I've got a few spaces left, but I'm not taking a huge amount of people on it because I like to make sure everyone gets a lot of my time and attention, because I'm an over-deliverer. I can't help it. I'm a perfectionist. I am owning that about myself. However, as much as it holds me back sometimes and makes me procrastinate, it's a really good thing for you guys, because it means that when you do one of my programs, you can be sure as shit that I'm going to do a fucking good job. Mwah. Big love to you all. Have an awesome week. Any questions, any observations, just let me know in the comments below. Mwah. Bye.